Hi everyone. I'm so excited about everything that we do with Brittany. We took a week off. We're back and I am so excited to see you guys. We missed you guys. It's been a week, but still. We're today
So much has happened.
Yeah, so much has happened. So today, we are going to be discussing Wandavision and doing our makeup. We're not going to go on a linear thing. We're just going to talk about some stuff. We're going to deep dive into it on another realm. It's going to be fun. I'm
It's gonna be
excited.
something else, is what it's gonna be.
It's going to
So
be something
we're
else.
not. Just to preface this, I'm into comics. As a kid, I was into comics. I have been kind of into the MCU. I do like that, but neither one of us are like super duper Marvel heads, where we like I've read
Mm.
all the comics, have all the background information. So if you're here for that kind of WandaVision talk, there are other channels that are great. This is not that kind of talk.
And don't come and do not come for us. We have disclaimed that part of it. But we really, really, really enjoyed WandaVision, and we're gonna do it justice in a way that we know enough of the backstory in order to follow it, but this is a whole nother level of diving into it.
Right.
It's
And
gonna
but
be
before we get there, we do have to address something else. Yeah, we still have mugs for sale there. Native humor is something else, and that is one of the ways we're going to approach this. You can use it coffee, tea, or maybe something else. I got my makeup brushes in this one today. So blue, red. Go to www.brittanyshulman.com/merch. Use the code Queen Bee. It gets you 20% off. Also, the funds come to support this channel and to support these episodes because something else.
Yes, we're gonna have a lot of humor, so we're just gonna get started. I well, oh wait, but before that, again, another plug, shameless plug. My handle's right here. Brittany's is over there. Follow us on Instagram. We also have, and I'm gonna give a shout out to our other podcast, Wrong Indian podcast with our brothers. Like when I call them my brothers because we fight like brothers and sisters, don't we?
That's the
Um,
Indian way. Hey.
so go follow www.wrongindianpodcast.com and you can find all of our episodes there. My cat is going to be part of the show today. She's going to do her makeup. I forgot to close the
Hello,
door.
kitty. Hello.
This is Mochi. So let's just get started. Episode 1. Okay, so spoilers. We're
Spoilers,
going
spoilers,
into this.
spoilers, spoilers.
Spoilers. We watched
At
the
this point,
entire thing.
episodes are out. There's no excuse. You can binge it if you want to, and if you don't, that's fine too. Just know that we are going to be talking a little bit about the plot, but not a whole lot. Mostly, we're going to start with episode 1. Go ahead.
Right.
You're doing great.
You're doing great, sweetie. No, well, I binged it all in one night, which, I was trying, it was like, I felt like I was doing research for our other podcast, and I didn't want to be one of the people that didn't know what was going on. I had put it off for a little bit, and now I'm all in. Like, I loved it. And so we're going to start with episode 1, which is, and we're not going to go through this like a timeline. It's just the what I thought was so terrific about this show was that what's going on in the first 2 episodes. It's kind of like, what is going, like, is this gonna be like a sitcom? But the attention to detail and the homage that they paid to the different eras that Wanda actually created, or which Wanda actually was putting her family through. Just, oh, if you grew up anything like Brittany and I, you know that our parents were still watching Dick Van Dyke, Leave It to
Mary
Beaver,
Tyler Moore.
Mary Tyler Moore. So we're very familiar with that because my parents are boomers. So
Mine too.
I grew up watching those reruns, and the I Love Lucy, where the bed
Yeah.
part where she pulls the beds together, Bewitched. Oh my gosh, it was such a beautiful tribute and honor to those sort of like the kitschy cheesy parts of those shows, like the 1950s. And it was such a beautiful kind of like set for me because of the me, costumes, Brittany, costumes.
Yeah,
Brittany, costumes. The wardrobe,
the
the
wardrobe was fantastic. The
it
sets
was
were amazing. And
beautiful.
even though it's all in the same town, you could see the evolution of the decades through the town. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And like even just like the cars and
Kind of like it's kind of like my hometown. Where it's like, oh yeah, there's the 50s, there's the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. It's all there.
but so you see this beautiful setting, right, of Wanda and Vision and sort of the cheesy love story and the like, oh, you silly rascal, you hit me in the head with the plate, the cheesy one-liners, and it's so beautiful. But then you have the sort of things that are happening during that time, and things that don't quite fit but fit, like, so you're not quite sure. It's
Stop
like
it.
a
Stop
what
it.
did I call it?
Stop it. Stop it.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I was all stop what? She freaked me out. I did not we did not rehearse this apparently, obviously. But then
Yeah,
like he's
there were
like,
those
stop it,
moments
stop
of,
it.
yeah.
He's choking. He's like, help her, Vision. Help him, Vision. And then he helps him. And then they're like, oh, okay, well, have a good day, blah, blah, blah. Right back to, robotic sort of like 1950s status. And then there's the helicopter, the toy helicopter, and it's in color, or the guy in the bee suit, and she's like, no, no. And you're not quite sure what's going on, but it's the 1950s perfection and utopia, but there's that level of uneasiness that I found so superb.
I think had I binged it, I would have enjoyed it more. And that's I am a spoilers girl. I love spoilers. Tell me all of them. You can even get them wrong, and I'm still okay with it. But going in, because I think the way I watched the first week, I watched the second week, and then I was like, I don't think this is something I'm into, and kind of laid it down for a little bit until the episode 4, where it's like, meanwhile, or whatever and it gives you the behind the scenes stuff that's happening. So we know that Wanda has some major traumas.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that this is taking place right after Endgame. So like for us who watched Endgame, it's been a while. But for Wanda and the people in that universe, this is like legit right after Endgame. So they've had the trauma of being snapped away for 5 years and coming back. And they think they portrayed that really good in episode 4, the kind of chaos. But that only left me with more questions like, would they appear back on the plane they were on, or would they appear in the sky where they were at if they were snapped back? I'm confused. But also, and someone else on YouTube pointed this out, is like, so you went from having twice the population, so now you've had 5 years to make your population smaller and to produce only enough for this population, and then all of a sudden you have twice the population again. It's like, wait a minute. There are a lot of economic struggles that would go along. The economy struggles. There's going to be food struggles.
The stress on the economy, the stress on our resources.
Yeah, so in the end, Thanos really didn't do what he wanted to do. He actually made it worse, but that's neither here nor there. We're talking about Wanda. So Wanda has had this trauma of, and we saw it, she had to kill Vision. Thanos brought him back and killed him in front of her. Then she gets snapped away.
Yeah.
And then she comes back and Vision's still dead. And yeah, so she is in this very traumatic place, and you see it that in I think it was episode 8 where you get all the backstory trauma to it, that you're like, oh, this is how this happened and this is why this is here. So I think I would have enjoyed it if I'd have binged it versus having to wait a week, because it was too much some days. It was just like, this is too much.
And you have to understand that, Wanda, because we take that trip back to all of her traumas because of what Agnes is trying to find out, that she suffered loss at a very young age. And you know, the and it had to do, the trauma was intertwined with sort of that scene where they're watching the Dick Van Dyke Show and the
Mm-hmm.
TV is still going, and you went from a very innocent moment in time with her family to complete devastation. And the
Mm-hmm.
Dick Van Dyke Show is very, it's just very telling in where this show is going to, right? I mean, of course, this is
And
like
where she
episode 8.
was where she was in her mind, and what she is doing. So they kind of play it that, and we were talking about this before, that there is almost two Wandas. It's almost that she has a split personality. And then when you get to the spoiler to the end of the end, the very last post credit scene, and you see Wanda's drinking tea and the Scarlet Witch is going through the book, it's like, is this two people? Is she has her personality split, or has she been possessed from the Scarlet Witch? Because this isn't following MCU canon. This isn't uh uh based completely and solely off of the comic books. So they have a lot of room to play with, and they kind of play with that. That she may have been possessed. This may be a possession versus a just outright villain situation, because she
Right.
really is taking out her trauma on all these folks. But let's just, so we have the 50s, we have the 60s, we have the 70s with the Brady Bunch, and that's that was where I was like, okay, I love this. This is so
Mm-hmm.
awesome.
So
Yeah.
you see Rambo becoming part of that world, and sort of like just the way that episode, the 70s episode, she's pregnant, right?
Uh-huh.
She it's like, oh, see, and then Vision is like, well, how did this happen? Like, there's
Yeah,
that, oh,
which
there's
I
always
wonder
that
too,
level.
because we know he's a synthesoid. He has no sperm.
Did you get that TikTok I sent to you?
No.
Oh gosh,
I will
you
check that.
just wait. Anyways, back
Yeah.
to Vision. There's this like almost, oh, just that, I cannot say it enough, guys. I'm so sorry if I say this 50 times during this. That level of discomfort in a in a euphoria that this cannot possibly be real in any way. My thing during while watching those first 2 episodes was, okay, so is this, I couldn't quite tell if it was Wanda. I didn't even think it was Wanda to begin with. But
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't tell, like, is somebody, like, is this some kind of outside entity keeping them in this world? Because then you start seeing Wanda sort of like becoming, she's uncomfortable with it, but for a different reason. She's uncomfortable with it because her euphoria and what she built is coming slowly unraveling as she unravels in that timeline. And it's just like, what is going, like, I thought she was on, and when Rambo's like, your brother Pietro was killed by what's the name, not Thanos,
Ultron.
Ultron. She's like, no, I want you out. You are an outside. You are too aware of the situation. I want you
What are
out. And
you
she
doing here? Yeah.
throws her out. And then that's when Rambo is thrown out. You still don't know, but when Rambo is thrown out, that's when you start to see the sort of backstage, behind the scenes situation. And it just, like, and then to find out it was Wanda the whole time, oh my goodness, I was like shook. I was like, oh my god, my heart broke for her. My
Yeah.
heart, I'm to a million little pieces broke for her.
And it was fascinating to see how she was not dealing with her trauma. She actually went through all the stages of grief in each episode in each, and she finally gets to the place of, so there's like outright denial, which is that 50s episode. This isn't
Yeah.
real, outright denial. Then there's a little touch of anger, and then there's that, and I forget all the stages of grief, so forgive me, but she goes through them all until
Right.
she gets to it, that last episode of acceptance and just bringing that hex back, and just kind of apologizing a little
And
bit, and rolling
letting
out,
go
because she's,
again.
like, I didn't. There's a point where she thinks she's not hurting people, but when Agnes like thumps them out of, and like, yes, we have your nightmares, we feel your pain. You may not be feeling it, you may be denying it, but we're feeling it. So there is a bit of Wanda is a villain. She
Yeah.
is the actual villain of this series, and that kind of takes you back. But they play straight into that nostalgia when they and someone else pointed out that it's the same team who did the Frozen songs, who do the earwigs, oh my gosh, that do them so well. They did all of the sitcom jingles, and you can hear the influences of like the 60s and the 70s and the 80s/90s. You can hear those influences of that generation and that era, but also they're giving you bits of the story along the way. It's very, I really enjoyed that.
It's the way they, and like, I wanted to talk about this the most because the trauma part of it, because and like, let's just face it, her entire hex is denial of that trauma. And it's like her way of coping with it is creating this alternate world in which Vision and her children exist, like this whole future, that I don't know, she planned it with Vision, I mean, come on, like you said, he's a
Well, I
whatever
mean,
you said.
they were a couple. They were together, and for her, Vision was real. I'm just the biological mechanics of Vision having
Yeah.
kids. But anyway, he was
And
very real for her. In fact, she wants to bury him, and they're like, and Hayward is so yucky about it. Like, he's just a robot. And she's like, no, he was the love of my life for
yeah,
Rand.
like, why do you need a bird? And they're literally taking him apart right in front of her. Like,
Mhm.
he's a weapon.
Yeah.
And no, he was my love. And it's just like, first of all, Hayward is just bleh, a yucky
Yeah, they
person.
tried to paint him as the villain, but he also, and I love the ambiguity and the gray area that they did with this series. And
Hmm.
by that I mean, let's think about Hayward's position for a minute. We're supposed to hate him and dislike him,
Yeah.
but he was there after people were snapped away. So he
Hmm.
lived through that chaos. He was there when people came back. And in a lot of ways, it was super powered individuals that he feels like had a lot to do with that happening. Now, Thanos was going to do it whether Avengers tried to stop him or not. That was his mission in life. You know
Well,
what I mean?
and Hayward saw what these these situation created, and so he was very adamant about not letting it happen again.
Yeah, and so I can understand where he's coming from in his villainness. Is he going about it the right way? Absolutely not. He's actually breaking the Sokovia Accords by creating spectral vision. He's not white vision, my folks. He's spectral vision. So he's actually breaking the Sokovia Accords by doing that, and going that route. So he's supposed to be the villain, but he's actually pretty relatable in that sense. But and Wanda is very relatable, because who hasn't had that moment where you've lost someone that you love and you're in pain, and Wanda is there to counter that, to say, if I had the chance to bring my mama back, I would too. Um,
Right.
and has a lot of sympathy for what Wanda is feeling and what she went through. And also, this is over the course of 10 days.
Hmm.
So it's not really, I mean, it's like each day was a new decade and then we're done. So maybe 9 days. So it wasn't that long, but if you were a person stuck and had no free will of your own, 9
For
days is a
9
long
days.
time.
And then having, yeah, it just, oh man, I lost my train of thought. Sorry. I'm trying to do makeup and talk at the same time. Multitask. So we're
Right.
just like, we're going to come through and we have Hayward with a trauma response, and we have, uh, Rambo with trauma responses, and we have Wanda with trauma response, right? And you, like you said, the whole plot of this is a very gray area in which you can sympathize with the villain that will go to any lengths not to feel out of control, which was her biggest thing. She couldn't control, she Wanda, I just want to give her a hug. um she couldn't she had to murder. I mean, she had to kill the love of her life. Then she had a chance to, like the sort of a chance to redo it, and had to watch him die again. And then, so when we're in a trauma response, and trauma, and I mean, there's a lot of stuff around trauma, right? When we're in a trauma response, everything feels very out of control.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way that she sort of kind of comes out of that is, we're going to control every aspect of our environment, and that I'm going to assert all of that control onto other people,
Mm-hmm.
so that I can literally help them, because they try to make this town kind of like a sad little town.
Yeah, they play it when she's driving through, like the woman who plays the boss's wife, who's Kitty off of that '70s show. She's sitting sad. The
Hmm.
delivery guy looks sad. This other, I mean, they really play it up like these are really sad people, and she's going to help them not feel sad anymore because
Right.
she
And that,
feels sad and she doesn't want to feel sad anymore.
and so she's going to help these people and bring them back to this utopian 1950s, like everything's so innocent and we don't have to worry about, the worlds anymore. And it just, like, I can't imagine a world in which I wouldn't want to rewind some things. You know what I mean? And
Oh yeah.
it's very I first of all, none of y'all were gonna tell me. None of y'all were gonna tell me that this was going to trigger and hurt me on the level that it hurt me.
Sorry.
Um,
I did just go say, just watch it. Just watch it. It'll be fine. It's like 20 minutes an episode. The credits are 20 minutes long. Just go watch it.
no one told me. No, I'm the kind of person that doesn't like spoilers. So I was constantly avoiding spoilers. Like, do you want to tell me everything about the show except the fact that I will be crying like a baby on the last episode? That's what you that's what you should have led with. not
No
not
spoilers.
no spoilers, no spoiler. Thank you though for respecting that boundary. But dang, at least tell me I'm gonna be that I needed a night or so to be like, okay, just watch that. That was really sad and really painful, and the fact that she has to say bye to Vision 3 times, but the beauty of how many times he's come back as different things. And
I do want to address this though.
go for it.
At no point does he says, I think we'll see each other again. We keep running into each other or something, which is actually a callback to the episode, not the episode, the movie where they go hang out. Like you get this little scene where they get to hang out like in Scotland or something. He's like, we'll see each other. We'll be seeing each other. Where they're on different sides of the Sokovia Accords. But he doesn't mention, oh yeah, so there's do you remember the guy Vision that I was fighting that was going to crush your face? Well, I kind of talked to him and he's probably dealing with the fact that he's really not sure who he is, but he has all his memories back. So he's going to remember that he loves you, but he may or may not be back. I was like, why could we not address this real quick before you just disappear? Jeez. Anyway,
Right?
it's it's those plot points in movies where you wouldn't have a movie if you just addressed this. Like if you'd have just told if Ariel, if you'd have just had a conversation with Triton about how you felt, and Triton could have a conversation with Ariel about how he felt, maybe there could have been an understanding before she had to go to Ursula. But we watched The Little Mermaid this weekend too.
So if
yeah, it's
they
like
just had
just
cell
a
phones,
conversation would be helpful,
right? So, and we talked about this on our other podcast, but let's just talk about Darcy and Jimmy, right? That those two are, I love them. Darcy is my favorite right now in the MCU. She's just a cool little chick, and
I love her character, and she's a character actor in the sense that it's the same character. It's like Will Ferrell is the same character,
right,
even though she's doing different things, or like that's her Two Broke Girls character, but it's
right.
also this character. So she has a character. She's a character actor. I actually like her character. I like Will Ferrell's character. Will Ferrell's character that he plays, like this guy that can do it despite the odds, but he doesn't really do it. He's annoying. But hers is hilarious. The sarcasm.
She's just like, okay, yeah, I love Two Broke Girls. I love Kat Dennings. She's just amazing.
Yeah.
She's beautiful. Perfect. Just kidding. Anyways, back to
Hello, girl crush. All right.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say back. Let's not address the fact that I have a huge girl crush. My biggest girl crush in the world. And go back to MCU. But yeah. So where are we at? 2000.
MCU.
So we have Agnes who comes out, right, and she's like, "Hey,
Also,
I've been manipulating this too. I want to know how you do it. Go for it."
Agatha, all along, her little theme song, it reminded me of the Munsters. And I was like, oh, I like it. I like it. Good job.
She was a little
Well done.
darker. Like, she just seemed a little off to me. And I'm like, she was playing a little more into it than a lot of the other characters were,
She was intentionally moved. Well, she was actually out of it versus the other characters who didn't have any free will. She had free will, and she was just kind of playing into it.
Right.
Which I think is exactly what you're saying. So I'll be back up here.
No worries. I'm looking for my, I'll have you distract the audience while I look for my eyelash glue.
Yeah, so she's kind of a distraction. She knows what's happening. She knows what's going on, but she's just kind of playing into it because she wants to figure out this chick's power, because her power is like through the roof. Like, oh, yeah. Whoa. Like, you are too powerful. And that's really what, I don't know, and they don't really address it, but they'll probably address it later. What happened to Agnes to make her want to be the person who takes power from people. I don't think she's just taking power from people she's taking it from the undeserving. So again, she's a villain that's not really a villain. You know what I mean? Like,
I feel like that was a lot of that this time.
Yeah, there's a lot of villainous ambiguity. I don't know if that's a thing, but maybe that's what we should call it. Villainous ambiguity. That I'm doing this for this reason, and they have a very good, very valid reason. But it's so sinister in how they're doing it. I look like I have a black eye. Okay.
Oh no.
I don't know what I was going for here, but I'm obviously not getting it.
I love the gray areas that, because in my journey, I know, so you all know that I connect to TV shows on a very deep and personal level. I mean, come on, the last episode or our last recap of Bridgerton, I had a very hard time with Penelope's storyline because I connected with her on an emotional level. Even though she probably wasn't going through all of that in her brain. But I connect with this on a personal level because I have in the recent years addressed my own trauma and addressed my own sort of wrongdoings in drama driven behavior, right? And I've had to take accountability for some really hard stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the gray area in which we see Wanda and we see some of these villains in this show are almost justifiable, and you can't quite draw a line in the sand about what's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at it from a trauma standpoint and what she does to the people, it's very well intended, but it's also you can't do things from a drama driven place. And that trauma, not drama. Well, it was drama.
I mean, don't do drama for trauma, but don't also do trauma for drama.
Yes, trauma. I was like, what am I saying? Trauma. You cannot do things from a trauma driven place because it is self serving and not a place from love. And so it was very interesting to see that kind of like well-intentioned trauma-driven actions that Wanda took that sort of blew up in her face.
Yeah, and she really, again, it's that she thought she was helping, and they kind of play it, so I'm interested again to see where this is going and how this is going to play out. I thought Doctor Strange was going to show up. I was really hoping, since they've announced she was supposed to be in his, she may actually just be the villain in his movie instead of helping him destroy the villain, because a lot of folks were going, it's Mephisto behind all this, da 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 da. It turns out it's not. Or maybe it is. We don't know. There's still a lot of unanswered questions. But that end where she's just sipping her tea, and the Scarlet Witch is over there just reading the book and pulling on the chaos magic and astral planing. Are they two separate entities? Because it's very sinister when she's talking to Agnes and she says, I know exactly who I am. I don't need you to tell me. Is that the Scarlet Witch? And has that been the Scarlet Witch the whole time? So is she possessed? Or is she is she faking the funk, or is she actually possessed? You know what I mean? Or is this just who she is? There are more questions than answers. I think I have at this point.
Open-ended.
And I'm okay with having more questions than answers. Although I would prefer, it's like, you ever read the story The Lady or the Tiger? Okay, so in the story The Lady or the Tiger, they go through the whole backstory of this country, and they have this system. They're very civilized, except they have this system, and the system is that the accused has to choose a door, and they either have to choose one of the doors, they get married, and it doesn't matter if they're already married, if they have a husband or wife, whatever, they get another spouse, and they celebrate, and the town celebrates, or they pick this very hungry tiger and they get eaten. And that's the justice system, and it's about this guy who's in love with the princess, and he's dared to love the princess, and that's the crime he's accused of. So he's either going to choose another mate. He's not going to get the princess, but he could live, or he could not live. And they go through the thing of telling you that the princess knows. She went through the process of figuring out which door the tiger was behind and which door the lady was behind. And she makes a motion to her love, and they leave you there. He opens the door, And then the epilogue is, if you believe that the princess was like her barbarian dad, which one do you think she would send her love to? Would she send her lover to the tiger to be devoured, or would she want him to live um out his days with someone else? And that's how they leave it. They leave it completely open ended. And my
Is
mom,
this a paradox thing like the ship?
no, it's not a paradox, but it is an open ended story. So you have to, as the reader, have to make the decision, and there is no closure. It's Guy Maupassant, I think, who wrote that book, wrote that story. But it's
So
one of those
closure.
that, yeah, it's like, you can decide for me. I give you permission.
I need you to tell me.
I want closure.
I need you to tell me what happened. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
But like not before I'm done with the entire rest of the story. Like I'm okay with.
I need a conclusion to my story, and so I think some of Wandavision is, we don't get a conclusion to this. They tie everything up. I was very satisfied with the finale. I think there were a lot of YouTubers who were hyping up all the possibilities that by the time they got to this is what is actually going to happen. Some of them were a little disappointed because of where it could have gone, and I think some were like, it's okay. I was of the thing that, you know what, I'm actually quite satisfied with this ending. I still have more questions. I know the answers are coming, so I'm okay with that.
I think. Go ahead. Sorry.
But yeah, there are bits of the ending that just left me with more questions. Is she, and that's my biggest question, is she possessed, or is this just her?
Right. And I think that I believe I'm only satisfied in the sense that everything was so morally ambiguous and gray area that I didn't expect everything to be tied.
Sorry.
No worries. I didn't expect everything to be tied up in a bow at the end. Do you know what I mean? So I was expecting there to be more questions than answers because of the way that everything was sort of unraveling out. And that we are promised the chaos of what is not the chaos, the Doctor Strange
Multiverse of madness. Yeah, folks were like, they didn't really talk about they didn't really introduce the multiverse in this, and I was like,
a lot of people were expecting that. They were expecting,
well, especially because you had Evan Peters, who played Quicksilver in the Fox version of the X-Men. Marvel, Disney now owns the X-Men, so they can use that now. So they were really expecting a big jump into that, but I think they're playing a very slow and long game about introducing the mutants, because we're going to have questions about mutants. If the mutants have been here this whole time, if you have Dr. If you have Dr. Xavier, and you have Magneto, where were they during Thanos? What happened during the snap with them? Why hasn't Wolverine showed up in something? Because Wolverine always shows up. He's very much a joiner. So it just, I think they're doing a very slow kind of introduction to it, because
guys, this is capitalism. They can't give us everything right now. Sorry.
Well, not just that, it's the storylines behind it. There has to be some explanation of where these folks have been. Why weren't they helping?
I just got this.
What is this?
It's a face mist.
Ooh.
It's hemp, and it's aesthetically pleasing. But I got the hand wash from this brand, and it's called the Beauty Spot, My Beauty Spot. And I got the hand wash for hand washing, and I loved it so much, and then I found a whole line of beauty products from them.
Oh, nice. I'm almost done. I'm not quite there.
No worries, I can ramble. Let's see. The commercials. All of her trauma, you go ahead, Brittany. I'm sorry. I know you're doing something very precarious right now.
I think I got it, though. I think they're here. I think we got it.
The commercials.
They were also very nostalgic.
Right.
They were also very, yeah, they were very nostalgic. They were very interesting. They were her traumas. Each one of the commercials was another trauma. I'm like, oh, when you get to episode 8 and they start laying out each trauma, it's like, oh, that little flash on the toaster, that was the bomb.
Mm-hmm.
That was the bomb. That striker, the time, that was Hydra. That was the experimentations that were done on them as children, which now weren't so much experimentations, because that's the other thing is Wanda and Pietro are supposed to be mutants. They're supposed to be the children of Magneto, who's super mutant, but they were only allowed to use, and this is some backstory behind the scenes production stuff, because they did not have access to the X-Men or the mutants. You notice even in this, they don't call Wanda a mutant and they don't call Monica a mutant. They say super powered individuals.
Yes.
If you look at the Avengers, Hawkeye and Black Widow are not super powered individuals. They're actually just regular people.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Stark is just super smart with a lot of money, kind of like Batman. He's not actually a super powered individual.
No.
Captain America was given a super serum. The Hulk was given a serum that he created in gamma rays, blah, blah, blah. And Thor's a god. None of them are actual mutants. None of them have the X gene. But Scarlet Witch and Pietro, that's why they had to kill off Pietro, her brother, because he was a mutant and they couldn't use him. They couldn't continue to use him in the MCU. But they can bring him back now if they're going to multiverse this out. We will see. But anyway,
I love how she opens and she's like, Pietro. I'm like, why don't you look the same? And
I
I'm like,
also
why
love
would
that his
she?
name was Ralph Boner. Ralph, Ralph.
Ralph. And then like he was so there was one point when I was like, they never show her husband and she's always talking crap about him and about intimate stuff, and then he ends up being Ralph Boner.
Yeah,
Oh
I'm
my
like,
goodness.
y'all could have get there. Either that is a fake name and he's under FBI protection, or that was the lamest joke of all time.
Right. Right. No, he's not the witness protection person, I don't think. He's just an actor. I don't know. It's crazy. But can I just say I stan Evan Peters so much that I was surprised to see him. I wasn't expecting that. But then I binged this in one night and I've been avoiding spoilers, so I didn't know any of this. And so as soon as I watched everything, I went on to YouTube, of course, and got all the background stuff. And yeah, so why do we love this WandaVision and we're not so MCU Marvel crazy fanatics? Why do we love this?
I actually appreciate the MCU's ability to interconnect and intertwine storylines. When you really think about Wanda and Vision, those were two characters that the movies really didn't do a whole lot with. I mean, they were there, they had a few scenes, there's definitely a connection between them, but they weren't necessarily the most interesting. They weren't the ones that I even cared about.
Mm-hmm.
However, WandaVision really made me care about them and really made me want to learn more about them, and really, because Scarlet Witch is an older I mean, she's an old, like most all of them is an older character. This storyline, parts of it are from the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
The House of M and these other pieces are from the 80s. So they weren't comics that I read. I wasn't into Scarlet Witch as a comic, but I do appreciate the interconnectedness and the world building, and that brings me back to the MCU every time. I do like watching, even when they weren't so good movies. I would like see, and you would catch little things, like if you look at Captain America's movie, he has one of his compadres in the movie in World War II. Fast forward, you go to Spider-Man, and his principal, who's actually the same actor, has a picture of his grandfather in his office with his medals from World War II. It's like everything's connected.
Right.
So it I really appreciate that about the MCU, and it makes me very interested for what's happening next. Now, because of the drip drop of series, I don't know that I'm going to watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier for a little while. I am actually emotionally drained. I'm a little tapped out from WandaVision.
Right.
I'm not interested in seeing the behind the scenes unless it's going to be like an epilogue kind of situation this Friday with WandaVision, because they have this and then they start Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I'm like, I don't know. I kind of emotionally drained and tapped out from that. So, but I loved it. I really enjoyed it, and it was enjoyable even not knowing like the whole backstory, because what Marvel does with the comics is it distills it down to the essence and connects it in a way that makes it make sense for someone who's not a comic book fanatic. So even if you didn't enjoy the comic books, you're still something you can enjoy here.
Right. And I think that I like same, but I love what I loved about WandaVision the most is that the essence of it, the progression of the trauma and her working through her grief, while also there's an understanding that it was not only affecting her, but it was affecting the people surrounding her, and that we can go to extremes sometimes when we're working through those stages to protect our inner child from being hurt again, or our inner selves being hurt again, and that it brings a real human aspect. And I think this is about everything from Thanos to the Scarlet Witch to Spider-Man, is it brings a super humanness to out of this world's powerful characters. You know, that even though they have these powers and they have these things, you know, these superhuman sort of situations, it brings this really solid humanness to these characters. And that's what I love about the MCU.
Relatability.
That could hit me right in the feels on a Saturday night or a Sunday night and leave me crying. But knowing that even these people, even the people who like Scarlet Witch, who has these superpowers outside of humanness, she's a very human character and she's relatable, and that they still go through these things just like us, and that it's a representation of the resiliency that women have when they do go through these things. So that's what I loved about WandaVision, is super super relatable and super super human for me.
Um, how about you guys? What do you love about WandaVision? What made you watch? Or if you haven't watched it, why are you holding out? Why are you holding yourself back from it? I mean, it took like several convincing before Paula actually jumped on. So you know,
I wanted to watch it. I just wanted to give it the time and the space that I knew it deserved. It was on my watch list, but I was watching Cecil Hotel. So.
Also, let us know what movies we should do next. I think we're putting up a queue together, and we're gonna move makeup in series to makeup in movies. So if you have a movie that we should look at, tell us where to find it. Tell us what we should be watching. It's gonna be a really great time, and we're gonna be beautiful as we do it. Look at I'm voguing. Even though this is like so the same look, it's a little different same look.
I try to tone it down every time, guys, but I can't. But with that, follow us on Instagram, follow us on YouTube. we are pretty much in the spring of things, and stay safe, friends. We love you, and we're so happy for you to join us. Leave us a like, share, comment, subscribe, do all the things down there. I
All
will
the
have links
things.
to everything. So thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.